Haine. The gritty urban mid-90s classic from Matthew Kassovitz. The continental train spotting, if you will. The European do the right thing. This unsettling socio-commentary on racism, class, culture and police brutality is as unnerving and poignant now as it was when it collected all the accolades at an array of international film festivals back in 1995. Cannes, César, Lumières. Packing a belly punch right from the off, the film opens with the ominous dedication to everyone who died whilst filming it, whilst showing real footage of the riots that tore through the Parisian suburbs in 1995, set to the powerful beat of Bob Marley's Burning and Looting. That's why we're gonna be burning and looting tonight. Say we're gonna burn and loot, burning and looting tonight. One more thing. Now, the audience could take this one of two ways. We are either just about to watch a movie drenched in political exposition, or we're about to see the unluckiest movie ever made. However, we are firmly led towards the notion of a narrative leaning towards tackling the issue of civil unrest as the credits appear. The cast are split into what appears like teams, much like the Sharks and the Jets, or the Montagues and the Capulets. Here we have Paris, the city, the police, with little common ground or wish for understanding between any of them. A perception punctuated by the graffiti that is drawn to our attention. Thank you, subtitles. Fight for justice, don't forget the police kill, etc. Now, all this is thrown at us before we even meet any of the characters. It's a lot to take in. Saeed is the first to help open our eyes to the story which Kassovitz is trying to tell. And he does this by opening his eyes. They snap open on a close-up, as black and deadly determined as a great white. Before he takes us on a stroll through the banlieues, we are afforded a sense of the world that Saeed lives in, as we see burnt-out car after car, stripped to the bare bricks shopping malls, and typically all the ingredients to evoke a constant sense of general urban decay. Next, we meet Vince, dancing in a spotlighted underpass. He seems to be carrying out a sort of jig akin to that of a circus performer. Vince is the actor of the soon-to-be trio, a man caught up in appearance and pose, a characteristic further emphasised by his rendition of Robert De Niro's Taxi Driver in the bathroom.
Wow, c'est à moi que tu parles, mec, c'est à moi qui parle, son cul, c'est à moi qui parle, putain, c'est à moi que tu parles comme ça, mec.
Before we meet our third amigo, there is a nice little reference to the Marx Brothers classic, The Cocoa Nuts. As Saeed retells the classic gag, right now, I'd do anything for money. I'd kill someone for money. I'd kill you for money. Ah, no, you're my friend. I'd kill you for nothing. Now, there's probably nothing at all to dissect here. It's just a light bit of humour, and I got the reference. So, it makes me feel smart. However, the fact that I can't seem to find the underlying message does somewhat take away this sense of achievement. Hubert is the final piece in the friendship jigsaw. He is introduced to us beating a punching bag in poetical slow motion. With the physique of a bull, this really is a stunning piece of film work, and it will make a cracking poster. We are very soon asked to consider the part the media plays in driving a rift between two warring parties and exacerbating an already tempestuous relationship for their own personal gain as they try to gather up sound bites from the youth, regardless of whether the individuals they find were even involved in the uprising.
Ah ouais, vous avez beaucoup de boulot comme quoi, par exemple, quoi? Trouver un truc bien baveux, histoire de foutre la merde, histoire de faire un scoop.
Vas-y, arrête de filmer.
Mais pour qui tu te prends, venir te péter dans mon quartier, tu mets ta rage, vas-y, bouge là. Qu'est-ce que tu filmes, toi, fils de pute? Qu'est-ce que tu filmes, fils de pute? Tu viens nous embrouiller, tu cesses de pute. Ah, toi, là.
Labelling and packaging an entire generation together under the same banner is a dangerous activity, and one that in the immediacy only serves to create monsters where perhaps there were none. It's like a snake eating its own tail situation. You call us animals, we'll behave like animals. Well, you keep demonstrating that our assumptions are correct, and we'll keep assuming. Yeah, it's not a subtle message, but it is a powerful one. Slightly more sophisticated are the little side stories that the supporting players tell, dropping by like biblical bards with little parables of wisdom. There is the story about the candid cameraman who tricks somebody into believing that they are being set up when in fact they are not being set up, which only leads them to behave as they would if they were actually being set up. This mirrors the situation between the police and the people perfectly, and is really hammered home when at the end of the story the boy is asked, "What happened next?" And he replies, "Nothing. That was it." Well, that is prophetic. There is no end, there is no aim, it was all pointless. But everybody watched for entertainment. This is reminiscent of the famous Charlie Chaplin quote, "Life is a tragedy when seen in close-up, but a comedy in a long shot." The topic of police brutality is obviously an incredibly relevant and worrying one. The oft-rolled-out expression, "they were only doing their job," we all know far too well removes the need for the police to be held accountable or even responsible for their actions. However, this is not to say that Kassovitz ignores the flip side of this coin. Whilst the police are judging all of the youth are doing exactly the same by assuming that all the police are corrupt pigs. The mutual hatred is simply self-fueling. As well as the aforementioned graffiti that adorns the screen for much of the time, there are also other little moments which help marry the context with the imagery. The moment the trio argue in front of the famous Écoute statue in Paris, for example. Écoute, literally translated as listen, designed by Henry de Miller as a request for Parisians to stop what they're doing, slow down, and listen to what's going on around them. Or the picture in Hubert's room of John Carlos and Tommy Smith raising their fists to the Star-Spangled Banner at the 1968 Olympics as a symbol of resistance and defiance, an image that has been seared into the history books. And one might argue that this movie could be too. The performances are universally exceptional, with Vincent Cassel, Saïd Taghmoui and Hubert Koundé all demonstrating extreme depth and range, each performance drenched in sincerity and honesty. Cassel in particular shows an early indication of his soon-to-be impressive CV. The music is also on point, with a mixture of hip-hop and reggae setting the tone for a multicultural urban existence. There is also a rather marvellous moment when a DJ turns his speakers to face out the window and plays a mix of KRS-One's Sound of the Police and Edith Piaf's Je ne regrette rien. That was quite close, that pronunciation, wasn't it? I have no regrets. As the camera and music soars over the estate. Possibly one of the most hard-hitting moments is the scene in which Hubert and Saïd are interrogated by the police. It is not overdone. It is somewhat strangely underplayed and soft in comparison to other moments in the movie. But the quiet realism is absolutely terrifying. The movie ends in the reverse of how it started, with Saïd closing his eyes with the same determination as he had opened them in the beginning. We've seen the world through his eyes, and now he doesn't want us to see any more. Is it simply too much to witness any further? Or is this simply telling us that even if we close our eyes, the issues will continue on around us? The overriding message that French society is in free fall is a statement that could be put on just about every other country in the world. And the fact that nobody is really doing anything to readdress the situation is highlighted here with ease. The continual lack of willingness to tackle any of the issues at hand head-on could be repeated about the situation regarding climate change as well. The idea that it is not the fall that kills you, it is the landing, is such a simple yet precise explanation as to how the powers that be view these problems. They see them as not theirs. It can be left for someone else. After all, we're not dead yet. So far, so good. Laters.
Jusqu'ici, tout va bien. Jusqu'ici, tout va bien. Jusqu'ici, tout va bien. Mais l'important, c'est pas la chute. C'est l'atterrissage.
I did that.